Hey guys, this is Dr. Zack Rourk. Today I had the pleasure of interviewing Jackson Nevers, who is committed to the Gophers, playing at Waterloo next year and just won a state championship with Edina. We talked about kind of his whole career, how he got to where he is now, talked about the challenges that he faced at all the different levels as early as Pee Wee level, and talked a lot about leadership and how he approaches leadership and how he's trying to learn to be a better leader. I thought it was super interesting. Go ahead, check it out, give it a listen, and hopefully you'll like it. Thanks for listening along on the PWHC podcast. Jackson Evers, thank you for coming on the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Today we'll just kind of talk through kind of where you played, how you got into hockey, and what I want to get into are like the challenges that you faced. And I've known your family for a really long time, you and your brothers, and I've been impressed with all the Nevers leadership, including yours. And so maybe we'll get into that a little bit, but we'll see where it goes. So I always start off with just, how'd you get into hockey?
I mean, growing up, I saw like my brother and my dad played it, so it was kind of like it was always talked about around the household. So probably around 5 years old, I finally, maybe 5 or 4, finally strapped the skates on and got on the ice.
Finally, huh?
Yeah.
Finally
Yeah.
at 5?
Yeah.
That sounds right. Okay, let me ask you this. Did you have a choice? Like
Not
if you
really.
were like, yeah.
No, not really. I mean, I played like baseball, hockey for sure, and then I think I dabbled in some soccer.
Oh, really?
A little bit of soccer, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's funny. My girls play soccer, and I know nothing about it. And I'm coaching their teams, and I'm like,
no idea.
My oldest is 8, and I'm like, this is really close to the end of the road for me. Because I don't really know what to do when you have 11 players on the field. Okay, so you get into hockey, you're 4 or 5, and so what would you say is like the first stage for you? So are you playing Edina Association the whole way?
Yep, okay. Whole way. So I think it's called like termites or mites. My dad was the coach, you're finally playing like games and stuff like that. And then the first year squirts, I made the squirt A team. My dad was also the coach. Bunch of buddies on that team. We won Fargo, the like big tournament for squirts. Yeah. Second year squirts, same thing on the same team. And then first year Pee Wees was kind of the first year I struggled. Like I was on Pee Wee A, maybe had 7 points the whole year, just pretty big kid, slow, like didn't really want to be there. Like at that point I was kind of like, man, like do I play baseball? Like what do I do? Because like growing up I was always playing baseball and hockey.
Yeah.
And never really knew which one I wanted to do. And then that was a year where like I sat down with my dad, Matt Bertram, if you know who that is. He's the goalie coach at St. Cloud. Sat down with him and my brother and was like just talking, venting, letting him know like I don't know if I can do this anymore, like struggling, really struggling. And that was kind of the first year I started writing like goals down at the start of every year.
Okay.
And every summer I do the same thing. And I think that was the first summer I worked out with you guys.
Sure.
And then kind of just shedded off some fat, got taller, skinnier, kind of matured. And then my second year I was on Pee Wee AA, and that was the first year where I was like, okay, like actually not bad. I'm pretty good. And then just from there on, my first year Bantam was really like, that was the first year where I was on Bantam AA as the first year, and I was like just producing, playing very well. And that was the first year where I was like, hey, maybe I do play hockey. Like, I think I'm going to choose hockey. And then after that year, I tried out for high school, made that as a freshman. And that's kind of where we're at now. Played high school all through all my years. Kind of homebred in Edina, so stayed there. And then my junior year, at the end of my junior year, well, I'll start with my freshman year. My freshman year, I mean, you're a freshman. You're not really expecting much, like playing time, not really expecting to produce much. I had like a pretty good year. Then my sophomore year, it was like kind of the same as where I left off my freshman year. So I was like good. And then once it hit playoffs was when I really started to like play really well. And then junior year was when I kind of like took over and like matured and was playing well. Finally got used to like all the high school, using my body. Um, that year we made it to state. I was a junior captain, so I got to work on my leadership as well. And then lost in the state championship, which was tough, really
Yeah.
tough to do that. And then that whole summer was just like I'm getting back to that game. After my junior year, I went down to Waterloo where I'm playing all next year in the USHL. And then just kind of saw it, came back to go watch Mason in the Frozen Four, which
Hmm.
that's what it was, and then played baseball, and then literally trained. I think he was here all last summer, just preparing because I wanted to play in that final game again for my
Yeah.
senior year at Edina, and then I go down to Waterloo for a before and after, or a before, and they try to get me to stay and all that, and then decided to come back because I knew what I wanted, and got back to that final game. Had a little hiccup in the middle of the year, but kind of for the better. Kind of
What do you when you say you had a hiccup? What do you mean?
we were like losing to, or we were beating like teams we should beat by like 5 goals, by like 1 goal overtime. I think it was around Christmas time in like a holiday tournament. We were like playing some good teams, but like I thought we should have beat them by at least like 4 or 5. And then we had like individual meetings. Me and the other captains, we decided we were going to do individual meetings, talk to everyone, kind of lay the land, like encourage everyone, let them know what they needed to do to make us a better team. And then we get to this, or we get to playoffs, and we're just buzzing. Like we played Benilde and Wyzetta. Benilde was a good game, 1-2 to 1, and then against Wyzetta was like that was the best game I think I've ever been a part of
Yeah.
in Edina. Yeah, and then go to state, blow through the first 2 teams, and then kind of get to that state championship games, and kind of knew we weren't going to lose that one again. And then went back down to Waterloo, finished the season there, was playing pretty good amount, and yeah, now we're here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions.
Okay, let's
Okay,
hear it.
so all the way back at the Pee Wee level, you're already like, should I be playing hockey?
Hmm.
Should I be playing baseball? Are
Right.
you making your goals like at the Pee Wee level, kind of summer goals, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like stuff I got to work on going into the next year to be
Yeah.
happier.
And where'd that come from?
Kind of my older brother. He's been my role model
Yeah, yeah.
basically all throughout my years of hockey and kind of teaching me the ropes.
Sure. So what's that relationship like? Like
Oh, it's
you guys
awesome.
are competitive,
Yeah,
but it seems like you leave that within the lines.
yeah,
I
for
like.
sure, for sure. I mean, we're competitive on the ice. We want to make each other better, but like whenever I need help, I always reach out to him, and he kind of lets me figure it out on my own, but gives me some guidance
Yeah.
just to like make myself better. Kind of me learn how to like problem solve through hard times and stuff like that. But and then whenever he needs help, he'll come to my dad or me, and kind of just like let him know it's going to be fine. Like you've done this, you've been doing this. He's battled adversity, so he kind of knows what's going on.
Mm-hmm. All right. So so Pee Wee, you have a tough first year in Pee
Hmm.
Wee, and you said like you didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I mean, it was just I'd show up to the rink every day, and I'm just not the best. Like I'm just not like I'm. In my opinion, I think I should have been on B1,
Okay.
but just like it was hard. It was hard, and that was kind of at the age where like it's so easy to just roll over and like be done with it, throw it out the window. But after that year, I just, like knew I like because that was around the time I think my brother was committed. So I like went on like 2 visits with him, and I saw that, and I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do. And then yeah, wrote my goals down, and kind of
Yeah.
the rest is history.
Huh. That's really interesting. So you're you say that you think you should have been on B1. Do you think you should have been on B1 because you think that's what level you were at? Or do you wish you would have been on B1 because it would have been easier?
Going back, I wouldn't want to change a thing because like I believe that that year is the biggest year that I've had in like my hockey career, just for growing and battling adversity. But skill level wise, I think I should have been on B1. But if I had to choose, I would have stayed on that team,
Okay.
PWA, just to kind of feel things out
Yeah.
and battle through what I had to.
So I tell this story a lot to, like, I advise students and stuff at the university, and um, I talk about how when I had my first internship,
Mhm.
for like the first 3 months, I was drowning.
Yeah.
Like, I was very confident that I'd made the wrong choice in
Hmm.
careers, and I was never going to make it as a strength and conditioning coach.
Hmm.
And like, what a disaster. And the feeling of that,
Yeah.
of the like, oh my God,
Hmm.
like you're saying, like, I don't want to be
Yeah.
here. I don't
Right.
want to. And same thing for me, where it was like, that's the most growth I've had in that,
Hmm.
like the growth density in that short period of
Right.
time. And now when I have that feeling, which I get about twice a year,
Yeah.
like, I think if you're doing it right, you get it twice a
Hmm.
year. I love it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to
Uh
be.
huh.
Have you noticed that the maybe the implication of that feeling has changed for you, or do you get that anymore? Have you felt
Oh
it since
yeah,
then?
you still get it. I wouldn't say it's on the same level as what
Hmm.
it was, but you definitely still get that feeling. And after battling through it, you're like, give me more. Like I want to
Yeah,
grow. I want to work on fighting through hard times and all that.
yeah. So the book, The Obstacle is the Way, by Ryan Holiday.
Hmm.
I read that, and then the original quote by Marcus Aurelius is something like "The obstacle is the path" or something
Hmm.
like that. But it's made me think about how there's not really there's really no problems,
Right.
because it's either easy and great, or what somebody would classify as a problem is just like a wild opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that's why I think sports are important for kids.
Mhm.
If you like what you're learning here, you're going to love our free Hockey Hips protocol. It's the same protocol that I've developed over the last 10 years. I use it with all my pros. It's designed to maximize the performance of your hips, to maximize the performance on ice, and to reduce your injury risk on ice. If you want this free protocol, visit us at perfectworldhockey.com/remote training,
Hmm.
because you can learn that lesson, right? And
Right.
it's just amazing to me that you learned that at the Pee Wee level.
Hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then um, Pee Wee through Bantams seems smoother. Did you run into anything in those years that was like pretty challenging?
I mean, that was the COVID years, so that
Yeah,
was that was tough. But I'd say from the hockey standpoint, not really. I was kind of just cruising smoothly, doing way better than I thought I would.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I remember you and Mason training over COVID via
Hmm.
Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
those were the days when, instead of training, like being on the floor training, I'm sitting in a chair for like
Yeah.
8 hours a day training.
Yeah.
It's
I remember that.
brutal.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. Okay, so walk me through Waterloo. What's the
Hmm.
situation there? So you get drafted.
No, so I
How'd
didn't
that
get
work?
drafted,
Okay.
but so like they like draft guys they know who are gonna go to the dub and like the O, and then that like frees up spots where they can sign guys
Mm-hmm.
or like pick them up is what they said. So probably like 3 weeks after the draft, I get a call from like the GM, Bryn Chiswick, and he's like, "Yeah, like we just picked you up." And I was like, at that time, I was like, I have no idea what this means.
Uh-huh.
Literally no idea. I'm like, okay, it's so far away. I think that was my sophomore year.
Do you know that you're not going to get drafted, or are you watching the
I was
draft
watching the draft.
and
Yeah,
you're like, so what's that like?
that was tough. I mean, I didn't really talk to any teams, but just like seeing it, because like you have that, like you really want to get drafted. You want to like see your name
Yeah,
like on the board getting drafted. But to not see that, I mean, it's kind of fuel. But I'd say it all paid off.
yeah. So so how long does it take you to recover from that? Is that something where you're like, okay, you shrug it off?
Yeah, it was kind of like that because like I had faith in my game that I'd make it to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was I think that was '05. It was either my freshman, I think it was my going into sophomore years that summer.
Okay.
So I've kind of done all like a lot of growing. Like I had trust in my game, had a lot of confidence in my game. So to like not see your name called kind of sucks, but it's also like, hey, in my head I was like, hey, you see that, but you also have like the big draft, like the NHL draft, where that is where you want to see your name, and that's what I was working towards.
Mm-hmm. So how do you like? I know a lot of kids that haven't gotten drafted that wanted to get drafted that
Yep.
feel like they should, and it wrecks them.
hmm
So, but how is it not for you?
I'm just surround yourself with good people. Got my dad, my brother to lean on.
Yeah.
I remember watching the draft because I was at a baseball game. I was playing baseball, or maybe it was a practice, and I was watching it. Like in between innings, my dad was on it,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know. I just like my family believes in me, my friends believe in me, so I mean, I just had them to lean on when times get hard, and they kind of pick me right back up.
Yeah. And what's that like? What do they say? Like your dad and your brother, what's that
Just
conversation like?
trust your game. Like I'll take you over anybody.
Yeah.
So like those words right there, I'll take you over anybody, are so huge. Like my dad probably says that to all his kids, like at least 4 times a year, if not more.
Yeah.
And just to hear those words, it's like, okay, like I can do this. Like I trust myself. I trust my game, to get me where I want to go.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So then you get the call, and then you've got this like before and after
hmm
staying conflict.
Yeah.
Were you conflicted your junior year? Because it sounds like you were conflicted your senior year where they want you to
Yeah.
stay. Was that the junior year too, or you knew the whole
Junior
time?
year, so junior year, I went down for their main camp, and they were like, "Yeah, we want you to be here," but I was like, "No, like I'm too young. I still have a lot of maturing to do. I'm gonna go back to high school my junior year," and then came down after we lost junior year, and then senior year, we're at our main camp, and they were like, "Yo, like, what's your plan? Like, obviously, we want you to come down, stay the whole year," and I was like, "Yeah, like, I don't know, it's kind of up in the air right now, but I mean." Like I lost last year. I want to go back and win it. And then they were like, okay, then if you're gonna stay, like we like don't plan on doing like a before and after because we don't do those. And then probably 2 weeks after our main camp, I get a call from our GM and he's like, yeah, we want you to do a before and after. Like if you like it, like we want you to stay. You obviously know how we feel. I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like I don't know if my mind will change, but I'm willing to come down and have like meet the guys, have some fun there. And then we get back from Pittsburgh, which is the like first weekend of your team after training camp, and they like ask me like, "Are you gonna stay or are you gonna go?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, like I'm gonna go back to high school," but I kind of said it like I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go back to high school because like obviously I was scared like
Yeah.
if I told them I was going back they would like not play me,
Right.
but then they like I kind of told them I was going back and then I didn't play until my last day there, the final game, before coming back to high school,
Sure.
which was tough. So I was there for probably like a month and a half, 2 months, just practicing, not even playing. That was hard. So I had my brother to lean on. I knew like I'm going back for a reason. I'm gonna go get this thing done, and got it done. Then came back and was in the lineup.
Okay.
hmm
Sure. So what did you like? 2 months of practicing, no
Yeah.
playing.
hmm
You feel like you burned bridges or something like
Yeah.
that. How do you deal with that?
Uh, I mean that was for sure tough, but I knew like so I knew how much they liked me. Like they let me know constantly like they loved me. They really want me to play here, but like they have to form a team like without me not being there, which made sense. Like I understood, but it just sucked that they like had me come down then like 2 weeks into the season I have to make a decision to leave or stay, and then that resulted in me not playing.
Yeah. Is it easier? So like it sounds like you kind of empathize with them. Like,
hmm
well, yeah, if I was running the team, this is a decision.
Yeah.
Like you get it, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Does that is that what made it easier? You think?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I also think what made it easy is just them letting me know how much they liked me and like
Sure.
how much faith they have in me. Like they let me know like when I come back, like I'm gonna be playing, I'm gonna be in the lineup each and every night, and I was. So that was just really nice to, trust them on that, and then they followed through on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so you guys go to state your junior year.
Hmm.
You lose in the finals.
Yep.
I mean, that's obviously that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Heartbreaking.
How do you deal with that?
Uh, I mean, solid 3 weeks where you're just thinking about, like, I still think about it every day. Now that we won it, not as much, but like for this whole year, like every summer day, probably every day I'm thinking about it. So we lose on Saturday and I leave for Waterloo on Monday. So I think I was there for like maybe a month. Then I left, but that whole month was tough. Just thinking about it every day, like you can't be with your boys, like that was hard. And then uh, I have like the newspaper in my room
Uh-huh.
on the wall of them winning and us losing. So I use that as fuel. Just kind of took it all in, mourn for a little bit, or not mourn, but like was sad for a little bit, and then just use it as fuel.
Yeah. So that's the second time you talked about using it as fuel.
Hmm.
Is there like a is there a process to that? What's that like for you?
I mean, you for sure have to be sad for a while about it, and then once you kind of start to get over it versus just flushing it, like it's like a bad game. You have a bad game, you got to flush it because you're playing probably 2 days later, but you have to use it as fuel. Like you have to keep it in you, but not in a way where it'll affect you, but it'll make you look better.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
Just bury it deep. Think about it. I like to think about how I felt in that moment and
Okay.
then not want to feel like that again. Like,
Sure.
do everything in my power to not feel that way
Yeah.
I did again.
Okay. And so you guys lose, you're making a list of your stuff again.
Yep.
You're still doing that?
Hmm.
Okay. So, and you don't have to tell me what's on the list.
Yeah.
But when you're going through that process, is it like is is that what it's all focusing around? Are there other things? What do you?
So, my list this year was like a lot of team stuff. Like, I want to be a good leader. Like, obviously, at the end of the list, I wanted to take home the trophy.
Mhm.
And then kind of, it's all, there's some individual goals because like that'll help. And then I had a lot of team goals because like I was coming back my senior year, I wanted to be the best leader I could because with leadership comes winners. And then yeah, at the end of that list was
Mhm.
just win that trophy.
Okay. And so what's your approach for leadership? Is this something that so junior captain, so
Hmm.
you've done a little bit of it. You
Yeah.
got your brother's been in that position for
Yep.
sure. What what do you think about leadership? Like how do you approach that?
I mean, I leaned on my brother a lot. I think probably 3 weeks into the season, I was like, hey, let's have some exit meetings. Let's hear what's on everyone's mind. Try to always be positive. That was my biggest thing is try to always be positive. And there are times where I wasn't positive, but I have my other senior captains and seniors, and like in my eyes, the seniors have to be the leaders. They have to be the ones leading the team because as an underclassman, everyone looks up to the seniors. Like
Hmm.
they're the big bad wolves of the school. So
Sure.
yeah, I had them to lean on when I wasn't as positive, and they had me to lean on when I wasn't as positive.
So you do this is after junior year, you do exit interviews.
Yep.
And so is this like the seniors are all in like a tribunal and then a
No,
guy
it
comes in?
was
How
just
does
the
this work?
captain. It was
Okay.
just so we have like a training room, and we had our three captains. My junior year was two captains, but this year was three captains,
Okay.
and we'll just call them in one by one and kind of
Sure.
just hear what's on their mind, give them our takes.
And you say that you want to keep everything positive.
Hmm.
Is that like part of maybe how your leadership philosophy is it's got to be positive?
Well, I mean, there are definitely times where I think it needs to be positive, but there are also times where you kind of gotta like lay into a guy and like. But I like to do it like in a positive way, like lay into him, but then let him know like how much he means to the team, and like without him, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, and we talked about this a little before, but
Mm-hmm.
I, um, I've been training Andrews Lee for a while, and he's
Yep.
an Edina guy too.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I have talked a lot about leadership because he's very interested in it
Yep.
and really studies it. And in my opinion, is one of the best leaders,
Mm-hmm.
well, that I've met.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that he talks about is like how you go about, and maybe you could think of it as being negative, but how you
Yeah.
go about like getting into a guy or holding somebody
Mm-hmm.
accountable. And so I think that's really interesting because that's hard.
Yeah.
Like it's hard
Yep.
to do that. And his thing, and I'm sort of paraphrasing him, so hopefully I'm getting close on this, but is like when you're dealing with that kind of thing, it's private,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to make sure that they know that you care about them
Yeah,
first,
for sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the reason that you're going out of your way
Mm-hmm.
to hold them accountable, and
Yeah.
maybe it's negative, but it's because you care about them.
Right.
And I thought like that makes a ton of sense when you
Mm-hmm.
hear it,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
but it's not something that I maybe would have thought about on my own.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that the leadership aspect of sports is like it's again, it's another one of those reasons where like that's why I think kids should play sports,
Yeah,
because
for
learning
sure.
that stuff is super
For
important.
sure.
um, okay, what did you do wrong? What did you do, like maybe this was junior year, maybe it was senior year, but what are the mistakes that you made as a leader that you were like, oh, wish I
Mm-hmm.
would have had that one back?
Yeah. So junior year for sure. Uh, Going into the third period of our state championship game, I wish I just let everyone know like how much I care about each and every one. Just kind of give them a little pep talk to go in and leave it all out like for each other. Leave it all
Mm-hmm.
out on the line. And that sucked. Had to think about that a lot. And then senior year, the start of the year, there was a while where I was just very like wasn't positive. I was like hating on, or not hating on guys, but like laying into guys in the wrong way. And then I had to talk with my brother, just kind of like I was like dang, like did I make the wrong choice? Like should I have come back? Should I have stayed at juniors? Which that was hard, but then he was like, no, like you're gonna win a state championship. Like you came back to win a state championship. And then I was like, yeah, like you're right. I want this. So I worked with our assistant coach, Josh Harding, just on, he let me know, he held me accountable. He let me know, like, hey, like there are times on the bench where you're like being way too negative, like you need to be more positive. I was like, you're right. Like I want this. So I changed.
Mm-hmm. So okay, so your junior year, you weren't maybe aggressive enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the beginning of your senior year, you maybe go the
Yeah.
other way.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So third period, between second and third period of state championship,
Mm-hmm.
do you say anything?
Yeah, I would say like what everyone would say, like, come on, like we got this, like came all this way, and we're
Mm-hmm.
not losing this game. But I wish like, because my brother's senior year, I think they were in a similar situation. They were down 2-1 against EP,
Yeah.
and his buddies let me know that he like gave a speech. So I was like, hey, like that's smart. Like I wish I would have thought of that my junior year. But I mean, it's hard as a junior. Like you still have the senior guys who you look up to, but you're the captain.
Yeah.
So that was tough. But then senior year was like I'm laying it all out on the line. Like I don't care whose feelings get hurt. Like we're winning this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
And so there's like a balance to be had there
yeah,
on, okay, that's interesting. And are there, so you maybe kind of create like a firestorm there
yeah,
at the beginning of the year.
yeah.
And how do you correct that? Because it got corrected.
Mm-hmm. So I talked with Josh Harding. He was like, "Hey, like you gotta clean up." Like that was right when we were going through our hiccup during the year. Like we're beating teams who we should beat by more, um, and he kind of let me know like, "Hey, like you try to like you got to work on this, this, and this, and like these guys look up to you. So when they hear you be negative, they're gonna be like, oh, he's pissed. Like what I do wrong, they're gonna get in their own heads. So just try and be more positive. And then we're on the bench. We actually, our next game, that was like the biggest game where I'm working on it. It's always in my head, and we win like 11-1 versus like a top 10 team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like this is pretty easy now.
Yeah.
And then
Figured it out.
yeah. And then from then on, we were kind of running.
So, all right. So, and you don't have to use the language or anything, but what, like, be more positive? What does that mean?
I mean, just encourage guys. Like if someone has a tough shift, don't like. There were times at the start of the year where I'm like, pass the puck, like I'm open, pass the puck. But instead, like the second half, I'm like, hey, if you see me, like get me the puck. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get it back to you. Just kind of like, hey, good shift versus or hey, we need a better shift, but you got the rest of the game to do that. Like you got more time, just flush it and let's go out there and have another good shift.
That sounds a lot like I'd take you over anybody, right?
Yep, for sure.
There's something in leadership where like you can't lead people that don't feel like you care about them.
Right.
And I feel like that is easy. I mean, I'm coaching a U8 soccer team, and I run into this problem all the time, where like I gotta make sure, like, hey, first, know that I care about you here, and second, we need to make some changes.
Right.
Yeah. If you like what you learned here, you're going to love training with us. If you live near Edina, Minnesota, go to perfectworldhockey.com/consultation to set up a consultation and come on in and work with us in our gym. If you don't live close to Edina, Minnesota, go to perfectworldhockey.com/remote training to download our app and get started training at your gym with our stuff today. That's interesting. Okay. So, do you make this speech in the state tournament at the second go around?
Yeah. So I tried to, but then I started like tearing up, getting all sappy because but then I think them seeing me like that really kind of put the topping on the cake. Just them seeing how much they cared about each and every one of, or them seeing me how much I cared about each and every one of them kind of was like, okay, like let's go do this thing.
Yeah.
And then we had two other guys who did the same thing. Two other captains, two other seniors did the same thing. And then that gives me the chance to be like, okay, they're willing to like die by the sword. They're willing to take a bullet for anyone on this team.
Yeah.
Which was huge to see going into that third period.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Huh. There's something to being able to be that vulnerable in front of those guys.
Right.
Okay. So what else? Were there other hiccups? Were there other mistakes throughout junior, senior year?
Not really. Just kind of junior year, we started 0-3. That was tough, but I mean, it's so early in the year. Like you have a lot of time left, so it was pretty easy to be positive about that. And then, senior year was just tough because you have I started the year not where I wanted it, like not how I saw it, but turned it around pretty fast. But at that point, it's like, should I have stayed in Waterloo, or did I make the wrong decision? Which that was super hard. I had a solid conversation with Josh Harding and my dad and my brother, and that kind of turned it all around for me.
So what about pressure? Like Edina is a hockey school.
Yep.
Waterloo is in the USHL. We haven't even talked about the Gophers yet. But like how are you dealing with the pressure of kind of the positions you're in?
Yeah, there's for sure. I think there's more pressure, like kind of away. Like me on the ice, I just get to forget about everything and just play. But like once you get off the ice and you're like, you don't have the game you want to. There's obviously pressure. There's obviously a lot of people like hating and all that stuff. But I don't know. Like I think like people who hate on you just do it because they're jealous. Which is a huge thing we talk about as a family. Like if people hate on you, they do it because they're jealous of what you have or how you guys are. But just being able to lean on my brothers, my family telling me like, hey, we believe in you. My friends telling me we believe in you. And I was like, okay, like I know how good like I can be and how good I am. So like I have nothing to worry about.
Yeah. There's a Marcus Aurelius quote, and I don't remember it exactly, but it's basically like when people criticize you, either they're right, and so great, thank you.
Yeah.
I can learn from that.
Yeah.
Or they're wrong, in which case, okay,
Yeah. Right.
it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
And so that I also have a theory. Maybe it's not a theory, and I probably stole this from a million philosophers or something. But I don't think that there's any such thing as external pressure.
Yeah.
Like, you can't actually feel what someone else expects out of you. The only thing that you could do is you could perceive that they have expectations of you.
Right.
And if you let yourself feel pressure, what you're really doing is you're letting your perceptions of someone else's expectations like supersede what your expectations of you are.
Right.
And so when people are feeling pressure, to me, it's just an imbalance of like, who's running the show?
Yeah.
Like, is it your own internal compass of what you believe in, or is it what you believe other people believe?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because you can't feel what I think.
Yeah, right.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Right. You could guess, and you could let it run your show, but there's no use in that.
Yeah.
Right. And how many times do you? I'm not going to be able to think of a good example of this, but how many times would you have you had a situation where you think that somebody, expects something out of you or wants something out of you, and it's driving you crazy, and there's all this pressure and stuff, and then you talk to them, and they're like, "Oh no, I didn't."
Yeah, right.
It's not a big deal to me.
Right.
And you're like,
Yeah.
"But I've been feeling all this pressure." Like,
yeah.
but it wasn't from them, right? There's no such thing as external pressure.
Right.
The only person that can control the pressure that you feel is you.
Right.
And I think that once you learn that, like all of a sudden you have control over this huge piece.
Right.
And like the quote we have up here is all about control what you can control. That's it. To me, that's your entire life.
For sure.
Just control what you can control. But you can't control outside pressure, but you can. Because there's no such thing as outside pressure.
Right.
And so you can turn the dial on that.
Yeah.
And I think that from what you've been telling me, you're able to do that. And like you say, you lean on your dad, you lean on your brother and stuff. But what it sounds like to me is, it's like blocking out the noise or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
There isn't any noise.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's cool. That's very cool. Okay, so tell me about the Gophers. What's the story there?
Probably just play 1 year juniors and then head there.
Well, but like your brother plays there.
Yep.
Dad went there.
Yep.
Baseball and hockey.
Yep.
What was that a hard decision? Was that this is what I want to do? Did they come after you? Did you go knock on the door? Tell me the story.
So this was junior year, like junior summer. Because you're able to commit August 1st, but you can like talk to colleges January 1st of your sophomore year, I think it is. And so I was talking to a few colleges like end of my sophomore year, and then Elite League of my junior year, like going into my junior season, playing super well. Then like the colleges I want they're coming into play. But I knew like I didn't want to commit right away. Like I wanted to wait until I was 100% sure. So I visit like a few schools like Wisconsin, St. Cloud. I visited St. Thomas right away. But I was like, hey, like they're all obviously super great schools. Like I loved all of them, but like I gotta see like what Minnesota is like. I'm not making a decision until Minnesota either lets me know they don't want me or lets me know they want me, and then I can visit there. But it was tough because I feel like a lot of schools were like passed up because they're like always just gonna go to Minnesota.
Sure.
Like his brother played there, his dad played there. Like
no chance.
Yeah, he's just gonna go to Minnesota. Which they were right, but they were right. But once I think there was the Edina tournament in high school where they were at I think all the games and I played super well, and then they called me the next Monday and I was just ecstatic. Just like, oh my God, this is crazy. I remember coming home and like telling my parents and I was like just beaming.
Yeah.
And then I think I visit there probably a week later. They offer me and I committed just on the spot.
Yeah.
Just while I was there, I remember we went to lunch.
You were trying to play it cool.
Yeah, we went to lunch, and I told my parents, I was like, yeah, I'm going here. This is where I want to be. And then come back, and I told Bob, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So not too much drama in that one.
Mm-mm.
That's
Nope.
pretty good. Okay. And then you have 1 year of juniors, and then the plan is to go in.
Yeah.
You never know how that's going
Yeah,
to work,
right.
obviously. So looking forward, what do you got on your list right now? Like, I know you're training right now, and we're seeing you in the
Mm-hmm.
gym and all that.
Yeah.
But what's on the list?
Just so I've got leadership because I want to go into Waterloo as my like first real year. Just impact right away as a leader for sure, and then train here all summer, get better, get stronger. Because high school, the juniors, it is a lot stronger, a lot bigger guys, a lot faster. But yeah, I got like uh, get faster, be a leader, and then I want to make an instant impact when I get to Waterloo. Like I'm gonna train. This is probably the biggest summer for me in my whole career because this is the biggest step that I'll have to take, and just got a lot of like hardworking stuff on there just to make an instant impact when I get down to Waterloo.
Okay. So training makes sense. Get faster, get stronger, taking care of that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you work on being a better leader in the off season? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so I read books. So yeah, my brother got me into this when I went down to Waterloo this year. He gave me, God, I don't know what it's called. I haven't picked it up in a little bit, but it's about like a rugby team.
Okay. The All Blacks?
It might be that, yeah. And so I'd go through and like underline. My brother had a few like of his favorite like sayings in the book underlined, and I would go through, read all of it, read the book, and I'd underline things I think are like important as a leader. And just yeah, that the book helps. I mean, reading that stuff helps. Seeing how people do it helps. If if my brother wouldn't have got me into that, I don't know if we have the year at Edina we did this year.
Yeah.
Which I think just seeing what other like seeing in a book, like it's a book, but seeing in that like what they had to go through and how they battled is like, okay, like you're not alone. Like you can do this too.
Yeah. So I didn't want to ask you if you're reading any books on it because maybe you say no, and then I'm like, whoops, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the same thing that Anders told me. Like he reads on it and he's studying it.
Yeah.
And if you want book recommendations, let me know.
I will,
can
yeah,
send a bunch to
for
you.
sure.
I read on that stuff a lot too. I don't think that there's another way. I certainly don't know. But
Yeah.
leadership, like it's not an accident, and you got to study it. And so that's really cool.
Yeah.
So you got that book that you're working on, and has it been kind of like one central book that you've kind of taken most of your
That's
stuff
the
from?
only book I've been reading. Just kind of, I didn't read much during the high school season just because I had to focus on school and all hockey stuff. And then once I got back down there, I started to pick it up again and kept reading it. But I know my brother has like 3 more books that he wants me to read, so I'll get into those.
And I take it back. That's not the only way because you also have a really strong support system of learning from leaders in real time.
For sure.
That's excellent. Well, that's really cool. There's not, I don't know. I mean, Mason was that way for sure. But not every kid at your age is like actively thinking about leadership.
Yeah.
You know, another guy to talk to is Spencer Noss.
Yeah.
Do you know Spence very well?
Not very well, but
I'll connect you with him. He takes leadership really seriously, and he's very thoughtful and intentional about it. And he would be really worth talking to about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, man. Well, I know you got to get on a bus here and get to a baseball game, but I really appreciate the time. That was
thank you.
Super entertaining for me, and hopefully it wasn't a waste
a lot
of
of fun. A lot of fun.
Good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep.
This has been a presentation of the PWHT podcast. If you like what you heard here, you're going to love training with us. If you live near Edina, Minnesota, schedule a consultation with us at perfectworldhockey.com/consultation. If you don't live near us and you can't train in person, you're still in luck. Go to perfectworldhockey.com/remote training to download our app That way you can do all the same training that we do in our gym at your gym at home.